the bounty hunters. You know, I was actually expecting there to be some kind of hint to what this chamber was used before. But there's none whatsoever, Harika says as she looks around the storage room. It was everything that Pukey had said it was. A normal storage room. She could find a chamber like this with trivial ease anywhere that had its own water supply. In this room, she could be on just about any ship in the Empire that wasn't a small shuttle or starfighter. There used to be some pretty horrific stains. The previous owner did some Axiom madness to seep the hints of her madness into the room. But on Octaron's spin, we got into contact with a cleaning company that could remove even the concept of blood from a room. When they were through with the chain breaker, any history of it being the chaining was scoured away. Why would a cleaning company be on a station with so many criminals? Never mind, voicing the question answered it. Harika asked before realizing exactly what she was asking. Gotta love questions like that, Pukey says, walking up to the massive tanks in the expanded chamber. Now, without the expansion, I would have walked clean out of this room by now. But just beyond these huge hunks of metal is where we found Slyther. The metal of his chains has been reduced to raw parts and used in some project somewhere. I don't know where specifically. The stains of his suffering scoured away so thoroughly that no criminal investigation could find it, and simple industry where there was once horror, killing the memory so the wound can scab over and start to heal. Tuckle, that was weirdly poetic. I've had so many damn conversations about this room, it's not even funny, but it has made me downright loquacious about it. Does that mean you're going to tell me why you're keeping him on the very same ship that so many terrible things happened to him? Keeping him out of this room is an excellent first step, but still on the ship? Because I was assigned to the ship, Cindy followed me, and Slyther followed us both. If we could have traded it out for another ship, that would probably have been better from a psychological standpoint. But at that point, cash was thin on the ground, options thinner, and we needed to get moving. By the time we had the resources to actually do a stunt like that, the actual problem had fully played out, and it had actually helped him a bit. Pukey explains, "How so?" Harika asks, and Cindy answers this time. "We told him that he was free to vandalize anything left over of the chaining, so long as it didn't compromise the ship itself. He actually found a fair number of their old stashes, and had a lot of fun just breaking their old stuff. Then helping us use the parts to make our own things. Both helped him. Every jagged knife he smashed with a hammer, every hooked blade he threw into a furnace, every laser and plasma weapon he pulverized against the nearby walls and floor, let out more and more of his pain until it was more manageable. Then he started helping the crew make new things out of the old parts, and it calmed his anger. By the time I met him, he was working on all sorts of little projects. His biggest one was revamping and improving a shuttle that was only technically rated for interplanetary trips." Letha adds, "I saw this room before its deep cleaning. You could tell that something had happened, but it was all distorted. The size expansion changed the dimensions in every direction." "How bad was it?" "It was like the mad woman was trying to restructure the metal with the oxygen carrying agents and blood. And it wasn't just red. There were the more exotic blues and greens too," Pukey says. "All told, according to the cleaners, and yes, their official name was just the cleaners, there was just shy of 2 kilograms of raw metal extracted out of the soaked-in blood. And this was after we had cleaned out the room with solvents strong enough for the fumes to kill any known race in the galaxy, including my own. Even SNCC degeneration doesn't make someone that twisted. It makes them perceive people as food rather than people. It doesn't make them dedicated sadists," Harika says in a haunted tone. "No, it doesn't. I've made a point of meeting SNCCs while off the job to get over my own issues," Pukey says, tracing the scar over his cyborg eye. "I've even met 2 who were about to be treated for the same disorder. They were still people. Sure, they could only see me as food on an emotional level, but they were still intelligent enough to understand that I'm a person and needed to be respected. They even called me back later to apologize for being rude when they finished their treatment. The one that brutalized Slyther, the same one that cut out my eye, she might have been sick, but she still chose to be a monster, to do those horrifying things. There was no excuse, and to be honest, I don't think there ever could be." "Has Slyther done anything of the sort?" Haruka asks, and Pukey taps his mechanical eye. This one and the one I had before can both record. I made videos of my little interviews with Snicks. I told Slyther he could watch them as much or as little as he wanted, and even warned him that 2 of them had the same disorder as the one that had hurt him so much. But you didn't force him. She doesn't ask it, she states it. No, I did not. He hasn't watched them more than once, but he has watched them at this point. He's seen what the Snicked are like from my point of view, literally. Has it helped him? It seems to. He spotted a couple when he was on Octor and Spin with us, but aside from making sure there was someone he trusted between himself and her, he didn't do anything else. No obvious signs of panic, didn't swear, didn't flinch, just made sure he knew where they were and had something between him and them. That's very good progress. I'm frankly shocked at how well you seem to have been doing with the young man. Short of my talking to him and finding out this was all a lie, this seems almost too good to be true. It'll be a lot easier to understand when I tell you that the entire mob of psychiatrists that have helped him gave me a thorough list of do's and do-nots, ones I have followed closely. So good work or not, I've had a lot of professional help getting it right. And the 3 biggest things they told me was, do not judge, do not force anything, and do not dismiss anything. Do establish boundaries, do explain yourself, and do listen. Very good basics. I find that the basics tend to be the most important for most things. Master those and then start getting fancy, Pukey says, and Haruka nods. And if you think consent, acceptance, patience, understanding, and care are the basics, this is a huge waste of my time. Unless, of course, I'm some dastardly fiend who's spinning lies so I can do dark deeds, Pukey says dramatically, as he wiggles his fingers at her in an over-the-top pose. An unimpressed gaze from 4 sets of eyes is rather interesting to see. Don't bother going into theater. You're not going to get anywhere, Ahon, she says, and he chuckles in response. Fine, I'll stick to my day job of being awesome, Pukey remarks, and Haruka scoffs. Where to next? This grand tour took about 5 minutes, including story time. We've got an hour and 10 minutes left to burn. Well, if Slytherin is currently resting, where does he normally work? What does he do for work usually? Haruka asks. I'll answer that, Slyther says. His productive time is divided into 3 portions: projects, training, and study. We all help out when appropriate. Although, to be fair, she gives Pukey a grin and he rolls his eyes. Oh boy, here we go. Our little boy is ahead of our big man in some ways. Yes, because the species that just made it to the galactic scene will have galactic-level education. The sarcasm is coming out as dry the dunes of Mordennon. So our husband usually takes up his fatherly role in the training and assisting with projects. He struggles even harder with math than Slytherin does and has actually started taking remedial courses himself. The whole crew is taking those courses, and you're in dead last. I have more duties and responsibilities than the rest of the crew. I don't have as much time for it. Pukey defends himself. Also, it's not supposed to be a competition. Well, it's one you're losing, Cindy teases. Hey, all right, everyone, be nice to the poor little man who... Why must most of my favorite swears relate to sex? It's all a threat of a good time to you people. Pukey bemoans dramatically. Anyways, where do you want to start? The little workshop we've set aside for him, or the gym? He does most of his actual studies in his room, and to be frank, I'm half sure he's just sleeping or watching a movie in there. At least I hope he is. He's at the stage where walking into that room without warning or permission is a very, very good way to get yelled at, if not things thrown at you. I'd like to see his workshop. What kind of space have you let him have? There are several workshops throughout the ship. Slytherin and Jade have more or less jointly taken over one of them for all the little projects they do for their teaching or for just making whatever they want. Jade is slowly putting together her own power armor and working on all the modifications she thinks it'll need even before it's done. And Slytherin mostly uses it to produce drones of all types. They also both are learning how to work on vehicles and spend time in the hangar bay. Well then, lead the way, please. Haruka invites them and is promptly shown through the ship. There is a brief pause as the little Orhanas girl decides she wants to get a good look at the strange new kind of person and spends a little while poking at one of Haruka's legs before grabbing part of the blanket she has covering her lower body. She then refuses to let go, and after a bit of adjustment, the stroller is set to follow Haruka closely enough that the little girl can hold onto her prize, but Harika can still keep it. Until she gets bored with it, at least. Which she thankfully does by the time they reach the little workshop and Slyther leads them in. It's such a mess in here, but if I try to organize it for him, then Slytherin can't find a single thing. What are you talking about? Pukey asks. It's perfectly organized. Is this some kind of mail thing? Harika asks as she beholds a downright bipolar room. One half has numerous arms and legs for power armor being worked on, and the tools neatly arranged with all the parts in organized drawers. The other half has the tools scattered all over with a clear path that Slytherin clearly uses every time. There are numerous large colored bins of different types all over, and they only have general size indicators on them for large, standard, small, and tiny. Yeah, sure, I made sense of this long ago, Pukey says before starting to point. Green bins have electronic components, black has locomotion parts, purple has the sensors and other perception-based bits, gray has the frames, white has the control arrays, yellow has manipulators, blue has stealth components, and red has weapons. As he explains, he lifts up and shows the contents of each type. Then Harika senses movement and turns while still partially out of the room to behold the boy of the hour. Her hands immediately covers her mouth in shock at his extensive facial scarring with clear teeth marks. "What Who you?" Slyther asks around the stick of dried meat he's eating. He bites it off, chews and swallows before twirling the remains in his cybernetic fingers. "Sorry about that. But who are you, and are you aware that there's a weird wet spot on your blanket?" "I am Harika Spindle. I'm a social worker with Child Protection Services here on behalf of the Empire. Concerns have been raised," she says. "And yes, the Orhana's girl was chewing on my blanket some." "Really? Hey, is she who she says she is?" Slytherin calls past her. "She is. Someone wants to be seen as doing something, and this is the result," Pukey calls back as he walks out with a mostly complete drone. It's shining silver, vaguely insect-shaped, has multiple well-articulated manipulators. "What's with the flying spider bot?" "I'm one-upping Necrons, so put down the tomb spider, please." "I thought they were called canopic or whatever," Pukey notes. "There's some insane spelling that looks really dumb and makes it translate blunt force trauma at best," Slytherin says before he rubs the back of his neck, and the silver drone powers up and floats out of Pukey's hands. It then floats back into the workshop, and he blinks at what his cybernetic eye picks up from the drone. "So am I about to be interviewed?" "Are you still on break?" Pukey asks. "I can take a break from the break. Pick it up after," Slytherin remarks before taking another bite of his jerky stick before talking around it. "Does it need to happen now?" "It can happen whenever you choose, young man. I am in no hurry," Harika assures him, and he chews as he considers. "All right, sooner we start the sooner we're done. I'll finish up the last hour with a nap after or something." "Very well then." "Where do you feel the most comfortable talking?" Harika asks, and Slytherin openly considers while eating more of the stick. He finishes while still clearly not making up his mind. That wasn't supposed to be a stumper. "I'm fine anywhere, really, but I don't think it should be in the hallways. But that doesn't narrow it down much." "Meeting room at the end of the hall, then," Pukey says to break up the mental gridlock. "That'll do. Besides, the couches made out of Karnek's jaw are pretty cool." "Karnek's? I was a spotter in a big monster hunt. Come on, you'll get an idea about the size from how huge the jawbones are,"